بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم. Alhamdulillah, we're continuing along in Riyad us-Saliheen on the chapter of patience, Sabr. We've reached Hadith number 36. عن أبي عبد الرحمن Abdullah bin Mas'ud رضي الله عنه قال كأني أنظر إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يحكي نبي من الأنبياء صلوات الله وسلامه عليهم ضربه قومه فأدمه وهو يمسح الدم عن وجهه يقول اللهم اغفر لي قومي فإنهم لا يعلمون متفق عليه. في الحديث فصل الصبر على الأذى ومعاقبة الإساءة والجهل بالإحسان والحلم وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم. So on this hadith, on the authority of Abdullah bin Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, I can still recall, or like he's seeing it basically, as if I'm seeing the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, resembling one of the prophets whose people hurt him, or tortured or scourged him and shed his blood when he would wipe the blood from his face. So he's talking about the previous prophet. The Prophet ﷺ is talking about a previous prophet who was being, harmed by his people, and they stoned him or hurt him to the point that he's actually bleeding, and he was wiping the blood from his face. And he would say, "Oh Allah, forgive my people, for they know not." And this hadith was narrated by Bukhari and Muslim, muttafaqun alayh. And in this chapter, it's like an explanation of how people suffer for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet, even through the suffering, at the hands of other people, whether it be through torture or mistreatment or bad etiquette or cursing or whatever it is, they respond with ihsan, right? So you can imagine this messenger of Allah being harmed and hurt and tortured. Instead of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take revenge upon them or harm them in return or seek to fight them back, he makes dua for them. And then the ayat was recited, وَمَا يَلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَمَا يَلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. And nobody truly reaches this high level of iman and ihsan except the ones who have patience and are of the fortunate ones, basically being blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You can imagine what kind of level of patience and sabr and ihsan that you need, that when somebody is harming you, you don't return the harm, but actually you make dua for that person. And this is the manner of our Prophet ﷺ. In many instances we see in the sunnah that he was ﷺ harmed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the harm is even more, you can say, severe, because it's like they're calling the anbiya, the prophets of Allah, are calling people for their best interest, right? It's like, I'm trying to give you $1 million or $1 billion or whatever. I'm giving you this gift and you hit me for it, and you torture me for it, and you ridicule me for it, right? And I'm just trying to do something nice for you. The prophets, the anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're trying to get their people, save them from the hellfire and enter them into Jannah, right? What greater gift is that? That's priceless. And for their efforts and their struggles, they get tortured or ridiculed, right? Even some of the anbiya were killed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just because they're calling to Islam. This shows us how the anbiya all have a very difficult job when it comes to guidance of people. And it also shows that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects only the best of the best to be the anbiya. So he looks at all of the hearts of the human beings, and he chooses only the best, cleanest, purest hearts to carry the risala, to carry the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And that's why they can bear this burden and they can respond in like. And then Allah, He says, Allahu a'lamu haythu yaj'al risalata. Allah, He knows who He picks to carry His risala, to carry His revelation, right? It's not just anybody, but if you look throughout the anbiya, they're always the best of their people. They come from the best families, right? They have the best character. They don't indulge in the lower qualities of sin and making fun and having bad language, etc. They're always noble. And this is why Allah chooses them to be the Anbiya. وَلَقَدْ كُذِّبَتْ رُسُلٌ مِّن قَبْلِكَ فَصَبَرُوا عَلَى مَا كُذِّبُوا وَأُوذُوا حَتَّى أَتَاهُمْ نَصْرُنَا. So Allah also says in the Quran that as the Prophet ﷺ is being belied, called a liar, rejected, Rusul before him, messengers before him, have also been called such, right? They've also been denied, they've also been, mislabeled, falsely accused, rejected. But what happened? They were patient. فَصَبَرُوا عَلَى مَا كُذِّبُوا. They were patient for what they were ridiculed for, what they were belied for. حَتَّى أَتَاهُمْ نَصْرُنَا. Until our victory came to them. Some of them, the victory came in the dunya, and some of them, the victory will come in the akhirah, right? Because we know that, as the Prophet ﷺ said, some prophets, they will come Yawm al-Qiyamah, like our ummah, alhamdulillah, is the greatest of ummahs. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ will come with the greatest number of people because he has the final revelation. And Musa will come with a great number, right? But some prophets will only come with a handful of people. Some will come with 2 people, or 3 people, or 1 person, or nobody. Imagine calling somebody for so long and not having any believers. Imagine Nuh alayhi salam, he called his people for 950 years, calling them to Tawheed, calling him to Allah, calling him to Ihsan, to goodness, to righteousness. And every day for 950 years he was being rejected. Only a boat full or less than a boat full of people actually believed in him. His own family rejected him, his own close friends, everybody called him crazy person, right? And this is the same thing that all the Anbiya, or most of the Anbiya go through. It's very rare that a prophet will be accepted outright and, have 1 million followers or etc. Usually he goes through struggles and tribulations, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them the victory. A similar situation also happened to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Once, when he was praying in the Kaaba, they came and put on him a carcass of the camel, which is very, very heavy. They put the dead carcass upon the Prophet ﷺ, and he couldn't even get up from sujood. And he had to get his daughter, Fatima, came to help him. And she was wiping the dirt and the blood from his face and saying, how can such happen to the Messenger of Allah? Right? And he's also telling us of other prophets that went through similar things. These are the most righteous of people, the best of humankind. If they're going through such tests and they're enduring it and they're patient with it, what about for us? Our tests that we go through are very minimal compared to the tests of the Anbiya. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَشَدُّ النَّاسِ ابْتِلَاءً الْأَنْبِيَاء ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُم. That the most severely tested amongst humanity are the Anbiya, the messengers, the prophets. They're the most severely tested. Then those that precede them in Iman, or proceed them in Iman, then those that precede them in Iman. The ones that come after them at the highest level. The more Iman you have, the more tests you're going to go through. Also, as the scholars say that, this is an ibrah, or a sign for us. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That in their stories, the stories of the Anbiya, that we hear in the Quran, that the trials that they go through, the trouble that they go through, the hardship they go through, is not just for time to pass time or read a novel or something like that. Allah is teaching us a lesson, right? That the more Iman you have, the more you call to Tawheed, the more you call to the truth, the more you're going to go through tests. Right? If our Prophet ﷺ, who was the best of humankind, went through such tribulation and tests, if you're going to follow his way, you're going to go through tests, right? And then, subhanAllah, Allah, He only gives a person a test or a burden that he can bear. It's just being patient through it to survive it and be victorious as a Muslim. Because like we mentioned before, the affairs of the Muslim are all good. If hardship comes upon them, they are patient, they get rewarded. If goodness comes to them, they are thankful and they get rewarded. Also, it shows us the importance of not basically reacting for the nafs, right? A lot of times the problems come in our lives and we lose patience is because we make the nafs greater than it is supposed to be. Like I mentioned earlier today that, a person thinks I own such and such, or I have such and such wealth, or I have such and such degree, or I'm from such and such family, or such and such tribe, or whatever, right? Their nafs pumps themselves up. So if any type of, dispute or something comes to them, the nafs takes over and they act emotionally and they're not patient. Even something simple like driving, somebody comes and cuts you off, or somebody misspeaks to you, or somebody does something not the way you like it, you automatically get angry because you think I deserve better, right? But look at this Nabi who is trying to do good for his people and save them from the hellfire, and he's getting hurt by them, nothing compared to what we go through on a regular basis. And yet, instead of responding in like, what does he do? He makes dua for them. Oh Allah, forgive my people, they don't know better. This is the akhlaq of a Muslim, a mu'min. If the more that you can, put down the nafs and think that anything you're going through is a learning experience, and I want to pass, just in school, you want to take notes and pass in high marks on your exams. Life is a madrasa too. Life is full of tests and exams and tribulations. But are we paying attention and learning from them and bettering ourselves, right? If we are patient and sit back and learn from what's going on with us, we will get to higher levels of iman and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we let the nafs overcome and be stubborn and not patient and arrogant, then we're not going to learn, and we're not going to benefit, we're not going to go to higher levels.